Efficacy of a tetravalent dengue vaccine in healthy children and adolescents by Marisol Ibáñez. Definition: Dengue, a mosquito-borne viral disease, was designated as World Health Organization Top 10 Threat to Global Health in 2019.
Transmitted by mosquitoes, dengue fever is a threat to almost half of the world's population. Dengue is a major public health problem, particularly in Latin America and Asia, where outbreaks occur regularly. When biting a person for its blood meal, an infected mosquito releases saliva containing the dengue virus. Once in the body, the virus infects the immune cells in the skin tissue. And enters the lymphatic system. The viral infection can then trigger a strong inflammatory reaction. During the incubation period, the virus first replicates locally. And then spreads into the bloodstream of the infected person. This is called viremia. For some patients, especially children, the infection may cause severe forms of the disease, including dengue hemorrhagic fever. The blood vessels become permeable, resulting in plasma leakage. Ultimately, dengue hemorrhagic fever requires intensive hospital care. When a mosquito bites a person who's already infected, it draws in the dengue virus contained in the blood. By biting another person, it can transmit the virus and spread the disease. The vaccine contains 4 strains against the 4 types of the dengue virus. Once in the body, the vaccine activates the immune system and the production of antibodies. The immune system is activated in 3 steps. The dendritic cells capture and carry the vaccine strains through the lymph vessels to the lymph nodes. They activate T cells, which then activate B cells. The B cells multiply and begin producing antibodies. Antibodies against the 4 types of dengue virus are disseminated throughout the body via the bloodstream. When an infected mosquito bites someone who has already been vaccinated, the virus that enters the body is immediately recognized by the immune system. Specific antibodies that were generated by the vaccine neutralize the virus. The dengue virus is stopped by the person's own immune system.
Applied in medicine, a tetravalent dengue vaccine based on yellow fever virus backbone CYD-TDV has been licensed in several countries on the basis of a 56 to 61% vaccine efficacy against virologically confirmed dengue among children in Asia and Latin America. CYD-TDV is associated with an increased risk of severe dengue and dengue leading to hospitalization in seronegative persons, which has led to recommendations that it be provided only to persons with evidence of past infection.
Dengue virus is a mosquito-borne pathogen with 4 different serotypes. Dengue infects around 390 million people globally per year and can result in conditions. There is currently no antiviral. The only available vaccine for dengue has low efficacy and presents high risk of hospitalization for those vaccinated, but without prior exposure to dengue. Clearly, we need a next-generation dengue vaccine with high efficacy that is also suitable for those traveling to dengue-endemic countries. The new vaccine must also provide immunity to all 4 serotypes in the simplest way possible. Proteins found on dengue particle surfaces are the main target of antibodies. Many of these antibodies recognize cryptic epitopes hidden beneath the surface of the virus. Any vaccine candidate must mimic the virus structure and expose these cryptic epitopes. A team of researchers from National Chung Husing University, Taiwan, has shown that the highly mature dengue virus serotype 2 virus-like particle MD2-VLP does just that. It mimics the dengue structure and exposes several important cryptic epitopes. MD2-VLP does not induce anti-PRM antibodies and requires just 1 serotype formula, avoiding the need to adjust doses for 4 serotypes. Mice vaccinated with MD2-VLP particles generated higher cross-reactive neutralization antibodies. They were protected against all 4 dengue serotypes. MD2-VLP is a strong vaccine candidate.
Pros and cons. The vaccine efficacy against virologically confirmed dengue caused by any serotype was 80.2% in the protocol population. 61 cases of virologically confirmed dengue in the vaccine group of 149 in the placebo group. Cons. 1 vaccine recipient and 4 placebo recipients had serious adverse events that were considered by the investigator to be related to vaccine or placebo. 2 had hypersensitivity to receive a diagnosis of dengue, and 1 had dengue hemorrhagic fever.
French pharmaceutical giant Sanofi Pasteur on Friday announced the publication in the medical journal The Lancet detailed results of its first landmark Phase 3 Dengue vaccine efficacy study that could pave the way to combating the mosquito-borne virus that sickens millions every year. The late-stage trial involved 10,275 healthy children aged 2 to 14 across 5 countries in Asia, a region that accounts for over 2/3 of the mosquito-borne disease's global burden. Sanofi had already disclosed in April that its vaccine reduced the incidence of dengue fever by 56% in the Asian study without giving details. The full findings were published online on Friday in The Lancet. Speaking ahead of the study's publication, Sanofi Pasteur's head of research and development, Dr. Nicholas Jackson, described dengue epidemics as a frightening event.
If you've ever seen an epidemic of dengue in a hospital, the wards are overflowing. People are literally lying in the corridors. And in some countries, patients are triaged in tents before they're admitted into hospitals. So an epidemic where as many as 1 in 20 people can be affected is a frightening event.
Nearly half the world's population is at risk of contracting dengue fever, also known as breakbone fever, because of the severe pain it can cause. The disease infects some 100 million people each year, according to the World Health Organization, and some experts put the number at triple that level. Most patients survive dengue, but it kills an estimated 20,000 people each year, many of them children, and causes 1 hospitalization every minute around the globe. The study found that the vaccine reduced the most serious cases of hemorrhagic fever by nearly 90%, which Jackson hailed as a breakthrough in the fight against the disease.
So our vaccine will have a significant public health value, given that we've shown, in addition to reducing just over half of all disease, we've also shown that we can reduce disease by 88% in the severe form. And this is critically important when you think about the gravity of a severe infection. You can be a child at risk of hospitalization, you can suffer from internal bleeding, organ failure. It's a life-threatening disease. And our results also show that we can reduce hospitalization by 2/3.
But the vaccine offered poor protection to young children, who are most at risk from dengue, and proved notably inefficient in tackling one of the viral disease's 4 strains. The results suggest the new vaccine acts best as an immune booster for patients with some previous exposure, and therefore may be useful in tropical regions where dengue is common, rather than as a vaccination for travellers. Since there is no vaccine now, that could still make it an important weapon in the fight against dengue.
Issues in Ecuador. 9 vaccine recipients and 5 placebo recipients discontinued participation in the trial before the second dose of vaccine, with an adverse event as a primary reason. With the events were angioedema, asphyxia, autoimmune hepatitis, disseminated tuberculosis, drug abuse, hypersensitivity, hyperthyroidism, influenza, malaise, septic meningitis, patent ductus arteriosus, seizure, septic shock, and urticaria. The percentages of participants with unsolicited adverse events were similar in the vaccine and placebo groups.
The health department reports the dengue vaccine being developed has been promising. So the vaccine has been tested for over 2 years now, posted an overall efficiency of 56.5%. This means more than half of those who had the vaccine did not get dengue compared to those who did not receive the drug. The drug also reduced the possibility of the development of hemorrhagic fever by 88.5%, as well as a 67% reduction in hospitalization when taken for 3 doses. Should the development be successful, the dengue vaccine will for release in July of next year. The DOH says the dengue cases nationwide from January to July this year reached over 31,000, 134 of whom died from the disease.
Conclusion. TAK-003 was efficacious against symptomatic dengue in countries in which the disease is endemic.
After conducting a large trial, scientists claim to have created the first vaccine for dengue. Though it only provides modest protection, it could still help millions of people avoid the devastating effects of the disease known as breakbone fever, dubbed for the severe joint pain and bleeding that accompany the sudden and high fever.
If you ever see an epidemic of dengue in a hospital, the wards are overflowing. People are literally lying in the corridors.
There is no treatment for dengue, the mosquito-borne disease that about half the world's population is at risk for. So even though this new vaccine only has a 56% chance of working, some doctors say it's ready for public use.